Our main discussion is about assessing the 2025 budget. The Finance Minister, Dr. Cassius Olato-Forson, has presented the 2025 budget. The NDC says it is a budget of hope. The NPP says it is an Azan budget. There's no hope in the budget. Two very distinct and diverse views on this budget that has been presented. And government has announced a significant overhaul of the tax system, capping refunds at 4% of total revenue, and all. So many different things has the government done in this budget. And Dr. Olato-Forson highlighted that the previous tax refund system was vulnerable to exploitation, resulting in unjustified claims and significant revenue losses. He had a lot to say about the budget. We will not bore you with much talk. Let me take you to Parliament and then listen to when he spoke about abolishing some taxes. Some of the very distinct things he said in this budget that caught attention. Let's take you there, listen to him, bring you back and have some conversation on the back of all that.
21.7% of GDP in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, based on the resource allocation from 2025 fiscal year, the total appropriations for the year ending 31st December 2025 is 290,971,212,435 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, budget financing. Right Honorable Speaker, based on the estimate for total revenue and grant and total expenditure, the projected overall balance on commitment basis is a deficit of 43.8 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 3.1% of GDP, 21.7% of GDP in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, based on the resource allocation from 2025 fiscal year, the total appropriations for the year ending 31st December 2025 is 290,971,212,435 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, budget financing. Right Honorable Speaker, based on the estimate for total revenue and grant and total expenditure, the projected overall balance on commitment basis is a deficit of 43.8 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 3.1%, in line with our manifesto promise. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winning from lottery, otherwise known as the betting tax. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, of 1%. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on betting. We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy of 1%. We will abolish the emission levy, otherwise as in Wusie tax. We will abolish the VAT on motor vehicle insurance policy. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 1.5% withholding tax on unprocessed gold by small-scale miners. In line with our manifesto promise. Mr. Speaker, we will provide a cedi equivalent of $279 million as a revolving fund for the Ghana Gold Board to be able to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week from small-scale miners. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for Big Push project. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated 13.85 billion Ghana cedis for the Big Push program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 499.8 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the non-academic fee policy for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions under the No Fee Stress initiatives. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated an amount of 292.4 million Ghana cedis to commence the distribution of free sanitary pads to female students in primary and secondary schools. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated again an amount of 242.5 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of Akosombo Dam spillage. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 200 million Ghana cedis to support the victim of tidal wave disaster that recently displaced residents in certain part of K2 South constituency. Mr. Speaker, the overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of dedicated sources of financing.
Well, so that's the Finance Minister, Dr. Cassiel Ato-Forson, and all of the highlights he gave about the budget, all that we needed to know about the budget for the year ending December 31, 2025. Chona Makpelu is the Greater Accra chairman for the Association of Ghanaian Industries. He joins us on the line. And we also joined by Nitan Saki. He's an executive committee member of the National Democratic Congress. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good
Chonam,
morning.
yes. Chonam, let me start with you. Let me start with you as we wait for our other guests to join us. We'll be joined by the Director of Communications for the NPP, Richard Ahiada, and we'll also be joined by the Director of Welfare for GUTA, who is Mr. Benjamin Yebo, and finally a political analyst, Dr. Samuel Lefriye, for conversation. But let me start with you, Chonam. Chonam, we've had some conversations prior to yesterday asking about the Association of Ghana Industries, what can make your life better and all. This is a new government and this is the budget they are looking at running the year with. When you listen to what is captured in the budget, does this inspire hope for you as an association?
Well, thank you. Good morning, and good morning to your cherished listeners. Yes, so I'll begin by saying that if you follow the advocacy of AGI, some of the key things that we've talked about has to do with the taxation and how all of these several nuisance taxes are affecting industry in a big way. And so it's been extremely refreshing to listen to the finance minister yesterday scrap taxes like the emissions taxes, the e-levy. Our view is that this is extremely welcoming news, and we're excited that happens. But also, it's important to also mention that the several reforms that have been introduced, reforms about the Fiscal Responsibility Act, the energy levy, the rationalization of the energy levy, and all of that, we believe will go a long way to increase the revenue base of the government, and so we're very excited about that. But our little disappointment though has been that we've had a lot of issues around the VAT, and we were hoping that the finance minister was going to put finality to its rationalization. But he says that he needed to consult more, I think, the IMF and other stakeholders to come back to that. But our prayer is that they will be able to do that in real time, because that issue of the VAT and its attendant issues has to be put to rest. It's really one of the major issues that industry deals with a lot. Okay.
Well, there's a look at reversing the flat rate regime, the VAT flat rate regime. For local industries, how will this affect you? Will this make life better? Will it make your work easier?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that the whole issue around VAT is very complicated. It's like tax on tax. You know, in the same VAT computation, you see things like national health insurance levy, debt fund levy. All of those things, they are not parts. They are levies, but they lump all of them together with the VAT, and it's not supposed to be. And so if they are levies, they should be treated as such. But now they add all of them to the VAT and make it more compounded. Besides, if you were a local manufacturer where you import your raw materials to the country, you are punished for that. Punished because then you have to pay, once you're importing your raw materials, you have to pay the VAT. And then if you are finished producing and you are now also going to sell in the local market, you pay another one again. So it's really like almost paying double taxation and so on. So we are keen to see how this is rationalized, and we're happy to have the finance minister admit that it has to be done. And we really want to see it properly rationalized so that it's simplified. It allows everyone to associate themselves to it and make it better for collection.
Well, please go ahead.
Yeah, but the other thing that I'd like to mention as far as industry is concerned borders on the issue with you recall that when he was reading the budget, he extended the sunset clause to 2028 for the growth and sustainability levy and the special import levy. That's a huge source of worry for us, because we have always had a major issue with those two taxes. And so we've all agreed that by the end of this year, all of those taxes will come to an end. But the minister extended it. And the growth and sustainability, for example, will chop off 1 to 5% of your revenue. And that's huge, really. And then the special import levy to about 2%. And what it means is that we will have to continue to deal with these taxes to 2028. And that's really worrying. We had wished that the minister would allow these taxes to come to their natural end, as it were, and also allow us to be able to plan properly. But as it is, we still have to deal with it.
Chunam, the minister is looking at doing a lot of reforms. Won't this taxes that he's extending also, won't you say that for you at AGI and other stakeholders, can this be your contribution to lessening the impact of all of these taxes removals on the government? Because they're looking at doing so much in so little time. And so if these two taxes are extended to 2028, won't this be maybe your concession or the way you contribute, your contribution to government in this time frame?
I wish it was so. Look, if you see taxes as nails, then you just hammer them on businesses, right? Taxes can actually be used as a mechanism of expanding and promoting business growth. So if you have to deal with many taxes as industry, the challenge is that you're just being frustrated not to expand. And so we want to have taxes as a mechanism of allowing us.
Hello, Chunam. We have lost Chunam. We'll do well to establish contact with him and speak with him the more. But he says that it was refreshing listening to the Minister of Finance yesterday. However, the VAT issues need to be prioritized so that they can see a good rationalization in there. And then the extension of the removal of the growth and sustainability levies and the special import levies to 2028 does not really sit well with them. They had been looking forward to the removal this year, but we will establish contact and have some more conversation with Chonam and better appreciate what AGI also are expecting. But we have joining us Nitan Saki. He is the National Executive Committee member of the NDC. Yes. Ni, I would come to you, but we have Chonam and we need to let him go in just a few minutes. So with your kind permission, let me end the conversation with Chonam and I'll come back to you. Thank you. Chonam, we have you here. We're talking about the two taxes. You mentioned that if we look at taxes as nails, we may be looking at it in a different angle, but these two levies, growth and sustainability levy and special imports levy, you had expected that they would be removed this year, 2024, but it's been extended to 2028. What more could be done?
Yes. So I was saying, you see, the real issue is that it's the same folks who keep on paying taxes, right? We want to see the government expand the tax basket to involve a lot more who are not paying. You go to East Legon and find out all those huge houses. How many of them are paying property tax? There are many taxes that are not being collected. About 60% of our economy is informal. Most of all of these informal business people don't pay no tax. Most of them, and they make a lot of money daily basis. If you invite an MC to your wedding to come and you pay him 20,000, does he pay any tax? So these are really the issues that we like government to find ways of making sure that everybody who is supposed to pay tax actually tax and pay the right tax. To continue to just taxing the same AGI folks who are faithful in paying their taxes, we believe that that's where the challenge is. That explains why they will continue to extend the sunset clause, because they need us to pay, because they know we will pay. And we feel it's not fair to us. We feel that they should just expand the tax basket and get everybody else who's supposed to be taxed to pay.
Okay. Chonam, the budget has been presented now. We'll be looking forward to what AGI will also be doing during the year. So we'll come back to you and have more conversation. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank
you so much for having me. Have a good
Chonam Makdalu is the Greater Accra chairman for the Association of Ghanaian Industries. Now we have joining the Director of Communications for the NPP, Richard Ahiagba. Hello, Richard. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Thank you for your time. Nitan of the NDC is also here. Nitan Saki. Let me start with you, Ni. Yesterday, your government has finally presented its budget. Your majority leader says it is a budget of hope. Really? What makes this budget a budget of hope?
Thank you very much for having me. Indeed, it's a budget of hope because, one, you realize that the government has thought of at least reducing the total expenditure. When you compare the expenditure of government in 2024 as to what we are having currently, you realize that it's been reduced from 269.1 billion to from 279. You realize that the percentage in terms of to GDP is about 20% as compared to 26% in 2024. So it's a government that is looking at how to reduce expenditure. So that alone is a hope for those who are paying taxes. At least if you realize that the government that you are paying your taxes to, is thinking of reducing expenditure, then you, the person paying tax, you also have a hope that, look, paying your taxes will not end up in the wrong pocket. You also realize that when it comes to projection in terms of surplus, now the surplus that we are going to have will be about 1.5% of GDP, which is about 20.3 billion. So in terms of surplus to GDP, it is so much compared to 2024. So when you do the analysis of what we have today as to what we have in 2024, it gives you hope. And then in terms of what the monies will be used for, the allocation, the various allocations, you realize that the NHIS that people thought the NDC government was going to abolish, you realize that there has been so much allocation to ensure that there is an improvement to SHS. Then you also realize that there is some improvement allocation to school feeding. So when you do the analysis, there has been a lot of improvement to most of the institutions that are so relevant for the development of this country. When you see all these things, definitely nobody will tell you that there is hope for tomorrow.
Well, but the former finance minister has punched some holes in this budget, especially where you mentioned the free SHS and all the uncapping of GET Fund to fund it. He says that GET Fund is for infrastructure, not for running free SHS. Free SHS was run in a different manner because they knew that that is how free SHS could be successfully run. He's even gone on to say that we'll see how it can go on. There was a dedicated fund there, so questions have been raised. I'll come back and then we'll touch on that. But let me get Richard's view on the budget. Richard, the minority leader says that this is an Azan budget, where the majority leader says that this budget is a budget of hope. Your leader in parliament says that there's no hope in the budget. It's an Azan budget. Why so? Why is the MPP calling a budget that many people are touting an Azan budget?
Well, thank you very much. I'm not sure how many people are touting it, but fundamentally, the NDC went around to play with Ghanaians in terms of this budget that they have brought. If this was a budget of hope, you would have seen it. It is not. It's playing games on our minds, creating impression. They are cutting taxes. They are trying to, improve conditions for people, but they are not. The key point you need to note is that they campaign vastly on improving cost of living for Ghanaians. If you look at this budget, the budget did not do anything to improve cost of living at all. Cost of living is likely to go up because one, utility bills are going to go up. And if that happens, cost of living would go up for Ghanaians. They have adopted a system of quarterly review to tariffs, which then simply just means, and their basis is to make sure that tariff reflects cost of production for power generating companies. And that simply means that when costs go up for them, costs will go up for you and I. That simply is not going to improve people's cost of living. And also, if you see the average cost, they indicated that the average cost of gas will be increased to reflect realities of the day. Currently, they propose an increase from 7.8 or $8 per MMBTU to 8.4 dollars per MMBTU. That right there is a cost increase for producers, which then means that cost of utilities will go up. And so you can see clearly from that this budget cannot represent hope. They talk so much about prioritizing women, but when you saw this budget, there's so much talked about Women's Development Bank, did not feature at all. What they proposed there, the 51.3 million Ghana cedis cannot even establish savings and loans for women, let alone a bank. In Ghana, you need a minimum of 400 million Ghana cedis to be able to start a bank. They propose an allocation of 51.3 million Ghana cedis. That will not create.
Richard, yesterday my colleague spoke with Shamima Muslim at Parliament House, and she mentioned that this is not a commercial bank. The Women's Development Bank is basically like a development bank to give soft loans to women for their work, and so this is basically the starting point. We shouldn't
don't buy into that propaganda narrative. It's afterthought. If it is not a bank, don't call it a bank. You're calling it a development bank, and you say it's not a bank. I mean, who does that? If the thing is not a bank, why call it a bank? I mean, whoever your colleague was who interviewed her should have asked her that question. If you don't want to make a bank, don't call it a bank. You told everybody a bank, and when somebody tells you a bank, don't you have an idea in your mind? If somebody tells you a savings and loans, we have savings and loans. We have Maslog. Why did we call it Women's Development Bank? Why didn't we call Maslog a Women's Development Bank? If that's what you wanted, you simply can turn Maslog into a Women's Development Bank. It is not.
Okay.
They just don't prioritize women, and that's what it is. And if you look at the budget also, the March talked about betting tax that they plot to abolish. You are not sure if the finance minister or the government is really keen or interested in abolishing that tax.
So I will come, Richard. Let me hold you there. Then this is actually going to be my next question about this betting tax, which has created a lot of conversation on social media. Now, the NDC, NITAN's people have said one thing, the NPP have also said one thing, and the rest of us are left in the middle, wanting to find where really we are lying. Because we realize that in the finance minister's address, he said, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winnings from lottery, otherwise known as betting tax. But we've also gotten to understand that the betting tax is different from the 10% withholding tax on winning lotteries. Richard, even before you give your submission on that, let me ask Nitan on that. Ni, would you and your party, your government, want to clear our minds on this? Because it seems we are now confused. This 10% withholding tax on winnings from lottery is one that hasn't been implemented. We understand that in 2023, it was passed. However, after stakeholder consultation, they realized it was going to be detrimental and did not implement it. Betting tax in its own is also a different tax. Could there have been a mistake in putting this together? Because it seems these are two things distinct on their own.
Okay, thank you very much. If the NPP is saying that it's not been implemented, then what was their presidential candidate promising people to abolish? Was it not the same thing that their presidential candidate was promising people to abolish? If they are saying today that it was not implemented, you know, if somebody belongs to a party and the person is concerned about an issue, there are so many ways of reaching out to people to let people know that you must investigate that issue. Clearly, what the former finance minister wants us to understand is that the betting tax that is being collected does not get to his end, so he cannot account for it. So we should go and investigate where the money goes to. Clearly, that is my understanding of what he means. It means the money is collected because Ghana Revenue Authority have made us aware that they've been collecting it. So it means they do collect it, but the money does not get to the appropriate authority. So the former finance minister is just alerting us that, look, go and investigate where the money goes to. But you cannot come and tell us raw that go and investigate. So definitely he will tell you, oh, we don't collect it. So you, the one who pay, and you, the one who has duty to investigate, will now have to go and investigate where that money actually goes to. That is what he wants us to do.
Okay.
And I think it's a good call. It must be investigated where those monies go to.
So, you won't say that these two taxes are two different taxes. The 10% withholding tax on winnings on lottery and the betting tax. You won't say they are two taxes. Are they the same?
The finance minister was very clear. He stated categorically that it is the betting tax. So why should somebody be bringing in something different? He told
Then,
all of us that it is
then
a
he
betting
mentioned lottery, because I'm looking at the budget at the moment. I'm looking at the document. We will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winnings
Otherwise.
from lottery, otherwise known as betting tax. But
Exactly.
what we have is also betting tax is way different from the 10% winnings on lottery. We are asking this because this is something that has now raised a lot of concerns. We've been doing a lot of reading on this in our earlier segment. We took a look at the betting and also the lottery. The former NLA boss, Sami Ewuku, put on his Facebook page clarifying what the lottery tax was, and went ahead to show that they did not implement it after stakeholder engagement. Many Ghanaians, when we hear betting tax, are looking at the taxes on the games that we bet on. And so it seems that there are two different things. And so the finance minister could have merged two things into one. It is for the reason why I'm asking that should the minister come again on this, so that we are clear in our minds, so that in the days to come we do not hear Ghanaians come up complaining that the taxes on their bet winnings are still being taken.
Clearly, the minister was talking about betting tax. So if Ghanaians happen to realize something different, they have every duty, right to question. He has been clear in his mind. He has stated it categorically that it is about betting tax, and that is what Ghanaians must expect.
Okay.
Nothing more, nothing less.
So would you say that the former finance minister is also right to say that they never took any taxes per what the finance minister said, the 10% withholding tax on winnings from lottery?
I cannot necessarily say so, because we have also been told by GRA that revenues are being generated from betting tax. So how come that the person who is supposed to account for us is telling us that he has not collected it, but the person who is supposed to collect the thing and collect the taxes is saying that he has collected? Then it means it's being collected somewhere and the money gets elsewhere. Okay. And the finance minister who is supposed to account to us is not made known.
Well, then it means that
why he's clearly alerting us so that we'll go and investigate where those monies go to.
Because now it supposes that 10% withholding tax on winnings from lottery is now synonymous to the betting tax. And this is where we want to have the clear distinction. Richard, let me come to you. Yesterday, after the finance minister mentioned this, it became a topical issue. Your former finance minister said they never collected this. However, when Dr. Bawumia was on tour, it was part of what he wanted to take away, the betting tax. Are you going to agree with them when they say that, well, this is what they have removed? Or we should look at it in two distinct ways. The 10% withholding tax is different from the betting tax. What was the finance minister trying to make us clear on, so that as Ghanaians we will be clear in our minds?
Well, thank you very much. I think that there is just only one way to read what the minister presented yesterday. And I think that you should have just cleared this matter. It is quite simply misleading for the minister to present to Ghanaians what he did yesterday. It's one of two things. Either they are not committed to removing the betting tax, which is distinct from the lottery tax, which is part of the Incomes Amendment Act 2023. They are two distinct taxes. They are not the same. And when he introduces I think my brother needs to read the budget. If you go to paragraph 141, which you read earlier, it says, we will abolish 10% withholding tax on winnings from lottery, which is different from betting tax, but then goes on to say otherwise known as betting tax. So here, in that paragraph, either the minister doesn't know the difference between the two taxes, or is intentionally creating a confusion in the minds of Ghanaians, which may lead to the non-abolition of the law, of the tax. So the betting tax, which is the 10% betting tax, is being collected. That is collected by GRA. The lottery tax has not been collected ever since the law was passed. There were consultations with stakeholders following the passage of the law, and they realized that it will affect them, will affect, business, because, the NLA was actually struggling at some point. And so they succeeded in not implementing the law. So the minister, I'm inclined to say that probably he does not see or notice the difference between the two, and he's trying to commingle the two. But there are two distinct taxes there that he's referring to. Either he's referring to the 10% betting tax as we know it, which is betted by our young people on football and the rest of those, which is distinct from the tax on lottery. So my brother needs to read the budget. There isn't anything else you can deduce from that when you read that. So clearly what the finance minister said is right, that we have not collected taxes on winnings on lottery, which is different from the 10% betting tax.
Well,
so
but,
if the minister,
finance minister,
one second, if the finance minister, Dr. Ato Forson, want to tell Ghanaians that he's going to remove the 10% betting tax as we know it, he should be clear and say it, rather than confusing that with something else that we have not collected. So the finance minister is right in stating that.
But then the former finance minister, when he addressed the press and trying to make the correction, he also referred to it as a betting tax. And this is where the concern is raised.
It doesn't matter. Hold on, my sister. It doesn't matter what he referred to it as. We have just made a clarification. Whether he called it betting tax, what he is telling you is that there is a component or the tax that probably look alike, which is why I am willing to concede to Finance Minister Ato Forson that he's confusing the two.
Okay.
Right? He doesn't see the distinction, because if you go further in the budget where he talked about closing the gap between the gap that will be created by the removal of this tax, he referred to a betting tax that has accrued about 180 million. Okay. 180 million Ghana cedis, which is going to use some savings. Even that is also a misinformation to Ghanaians. So he then refers to betting tax at that point. So I am quite willing to concede that the finance minister did not properly differentiate the two budgets. On the face of what he has presented here, there's a confusion, and we just need to be clear what he's referring to, because the betting tax is being collected. If that is what he wants to abolish, he should be clear and say that. Okay. The lottery, winning on lottery is not being collected, and so there's no reason to cite that in his budget. That's the point we're making.
Well, gentlemen, let me hold you. We also joined by Benjamin Yeboah. He is the Director of Welfare for the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Let's have some conversation with him. Hello, Benjamin. Thank you for your time, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Prior to the reading of the budget, we spoke with you. You were looking out for so many things to happen, especially about tax incentives, broadening the tax net so that the pressure on those of you in the net would be lessened. Yesterday, the finance minister spoke. Are you glad about what you heard?
Well, thank you so much, and good morning to your viewers. Yes, we were to a large extent okay. It's not everything that we expected that was said, but at least some of their promises were met. I mean, you heard the finance minister say they would abolish the e-levy, the 1% e-levy, which is good. And then the emission levy is affected directly, and then removal of VAT on motor vehicle insurance. The premium will go down, which is also okay. And there wasn't any new particular taxes on the trading arena, which to us is also perfect. Then for our women, we heard that they will be allocating a seed money of 51.3 million Ghana cedis to for the Women Development Bank. It's something we discussed before the budget, and therefore we're happy. And now we've heard that they are giving a seed money. And then also with our youth, we're hoping that they will be pushed in there with the women. But then we heard that they are rather doing this national apprenticeship program, and they are allocating 300 million for them, which will help. And if we can't employ them, government can employ them, at least they can go into that program. So they were all, we were hoping to hear something on the 24-hour economy. It was critical because we've been already started talking to government on that. And then we're hoping that there will be some measures that will incentivize us from moving from just buying, selling, importing, selling, and then moving into that manufacturing aspect. Because the 24-hour is all about it. It's a system that is based on productivity, manufacturing. And I think the finance minister said they will repackage it and bring it, and then we'll see what is in it. We were particularly also very interested in the reforms that he talked about. He said they are bringing the comprehensive reforms on VAT. Remember, we spoke on that because we were worried about its collection, the way it is, that three phase that it has. And then we're hoping that he will be concrete on it. But he says they will have a real comprehensive reform. We would like to be part of it because we want to see how the decoupling of the GET Fund, NHI will help, and also if they intend to really push the COVID levy out of it, and then we'll see the real value of the VAT as it stands. And then we heard him say they will be reversing the VAT flat regime. We want to engage the minister on it because actually Gutta fought strongly for the flat rate in the sense that it helps in the computation for the smaller businesses, the shops. And therefore, we would want it to be there. And in a way that everyone should be collecting the flat rate. And then we heard that they said they will still exempt the micro, small businesses from it. We want to also see critically how they're going to do it because as it stands, they are still being exempted because of the threshold of 200,000 now. So those below it do not collect. And they are on the same market, affecting the others that are collecting. It is not helping. So if they say they are going to exempt, they're not going to reduce the threshold in the sense that it will just be what we call boja table for those people. That's what we want to hear. We didn't hear much about the tax expansion net. Well, like I said earlier when we spoke, that we thought that we will see critically, since they are removing the e-levy, we'll see critically how they will expand the tax rate by employing more people onto the bracket because everyone has a Ghana card now. So I think with time we should also look at that end. And we're also a little worried if you remember that removing these taxes will create a vacuum that might make them pushing some other measures in future. It happened to the NPP. Remember, they came 2017, benchmark was half and all that. We're happy. Later, it was all reversed. But the minister is saying they are going to strengthen collection of property rates. They are going to increase the growth and sustainability levy on mining from 1 to 3%, so that it will increase revenue for them. They will reintroduce road tolls, and then also the tax refunds, they would minimize it from 6 to 4%, so that it will accumulate more, and then they will make sure that it's put into proper use. We are hoping that all that he said would be implemented. See, mostly the implementation that is key, and then the sustainability of what you say from the medium long term. These are all critical, but all said and done, I think it's a good start.
Okay, it is a good start from here on. The minister mentioned about some 3.8 billion Ghana cedis to be saved from tax refund changes and redirected to infrastructure and health care. How do you feel about this?
You see, mostly governments have had problems with allocation, sticking to it, making sure that they cut their expenditure and then stick to what they have earmarked themselves to do. That is what is mostly critical. Self-discipline, physical discipline. So I think if he says so, and they are going to be sticking to what he's saying to ensure that money allocated to specific areas are done so that we can get the proper, what we intend to get out of it. It will be perfect. I hope they've learned a lot from their first end. So, President will be doing more differently than he did in his first term. So let us pray and hope, because it's enough to our benefit if they do it and do it right. Definitely, it will have a direct bearing on businesses, and that will be okay for us.
Well, some are also skeptical about all of these, seeing as, like you mentioned, it's happened before, where in 2017, many taxes were removed, but at the end of the day, some were reintroduced and all, and Gutta and other stakeholders raised concerns. You are saying that you would want to have some stakeholder engagements with the Minister of Finance. What would be some of the things you'll be telling them so that it gives you and your group some confidence going forward? Because in as much as we've seen all of these in the budget, captured in the budget, people are still skeptical because you don't know what will happen in the next instant. What would you be telling him if you had any stakeholder engagement?
Well, you see, like I said earlier, stakeholder engagements are very, very critical. The minister seems to have set the ball rolling and going onto the market to engage with the ordinary market woman. These are critical because they are on the ground. We are around all the time. And therefore, stakeholder engagement is critical and key. And also, like I said, what we fear, that creating vacuum by removing or abolishing taxes. How are you going to fill it? And he has, outlined certain things that they are going to do that will show up revenue that can cover the vacuum. It's critical they stick to it. Like I said, mostly it's about implementation. And then two, sustaining what you have implemented to ensure that they bear fruit. That is mostly accurate, because if they don't, and they don't adhere to fiscal discipline to ensure that they are doing what they said they will do, cutting government, expenditure to the barest minimum, ensuring that key monies go to where they are needed. Those are the things, checking themselves to do what is right, sustaining it. That is what is key. And then, most importantly, engaging as stakeholders. I think if we should meet him, we'll hit on it. Luckily, the minister is a good friend. We've known him when he was a deputy minister for finance. We engaged in those days. And he's a friend to us. And therefore, we don't see it as being difficult. We engage in him. So we'll continue to engage him on all that I'm saying. Okay. And to ensure that, yes, they will also be that transparent to us. The way is critical and they are facing difficulties, they will be open and transparent. Then we'll all move along. Those are usually the problem. And we are hoping that we'll just lay these things bare to him. So we'll move along.
Well, we are grateful for your time, sir. We'll be looking forward to speaking with you the more. This is a budget that cannot be exhausted in just a day, so we'll have more conversation. Benjamin Yeboah is the Director of Welfare at the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Gutta. We'll see how far all of these things outlined will help them as an association. We're still having this main discussion here on our show, but if you are interested in taking a short course in UK Executive Certificate Training in Human Resources Management, Occupational Health and Safety Management, Emergency Resource Management, Project Management, Security and Risk Management, Logistics and Supply Chain Management, Public Administration and Local Government Systems. This is a course for you. It is a 4-week online UK executive training. You should call 020-966-1720. Call Global ICM on 020-966-1720 or WhatsApp them on 0244-764-797, 0244-764-797, and take this 4-week short course. Let's continue to have our conversation. This is an extended main discussion today, and we are encompassing it with our politics today. We're looking at the 2025 budget. Gutta has told us what the expectations are. The Ghana Association of Ghanaian Industries has also shared. We're having conversation. Nitan Saki is an executive committee member of the NDC. Ni, thank you for your patience and thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Ni,
You're welcome.
let's go to the education sector where the minister says that Get Fund is uncapped and now there will be dedicated funding for the free SHS from the Get Fund. However, the NPP have also made us understand that there was a fund for free SHS. There's a reason why they were not using Get Fund, because Get Fund is more for infrastructure development. What influenced this decision to now hinge free SHS on the Get Fund?
There is need for us to have a sustainable means of funding Get Fund.
Okay.
Where they used to get fund from to manage the free SHS is not a sustainable way. So there is need for us to look for the one that will be more sustainable, and the best place to go is the Get Fund. Yes, they are now. I'm happy they realize that Get Fund is meant for some specific purpose, but they are the same people who are using Get Fund anyhow they want, whether it is for infrastructure or for scholarship or whatever. What it's being used for now is not anything outside education.
Okay.
Get Fund is purposely there to help us in addressing our educational challenges. So using part of the money to address the issues under free SHS is not out of place.
Okay. Hello, Ni. So it's not out of place, and we should take that. The NPP have said that there will be a very constructive minority in giving you their thoughts on this. They have mentioned that Get Fund is not the right dedicated source of funding. Won't it be a good thing to listen to them, since they are the ones who brought this policy? It is their flagship program. They've run it for years now. And so if they tell you that this is not a good or the right source of funding, won't you agree?
You know, when you engage them in public, when the camera is on them, you see them opposing the idea of using the Get Fund. But when you engage them behind, where there is no camera, they regret for not using Get Fund judiciously.
Okay.
They regret for not using it to address the challenges that bedevil the free SHS. So clearly, they know very well that this is the best way. But you see, they want the government to fail, so that when the government of the day fails, the people of this country will give them the mandate. So whatever they come out with, they always want to hit at what will let the government fail. They have actually regretted for not using the Get Fund judiciously to address the problem when Ghanaians were crying that people cannot have good meal. The students do not have the necessary facilities. Instead of them to use the Get Fund, they were using the Get Fund to address problem of people who have it already, they have already. Were using the Get Fund to cater for their education, instead of using it to address the needs of the needed those who do not have it in the society. They were using it to cater for their party foot soldiers and then their ministers. Some of the ministers were using Get Fund to pay their fees. But now
I'll come back. We are joined on the line by Dr. Samuel Afriyie. He's a political analyst. Let me pick his thoughts for just a few minutes and come back and look at more conversation. But Get Fund, and you saying that the NPP regrets not using Get Fund for free SHS. Dr. Samuel Afriyie, thank you for your time, sir. Most grateful that every time we call on you, you speak with us.
Yeah. Good morning. But I think I can hear you far, not.
I will speak out so you can hear me better. Is this better, sir?
Yes, okay. I think it's okay.
Great. Dr. Afriyie, I understand you have a very short time for us this morning, so I'll make it quick. The budget has finally been read. So much has been said about it. From a political lens, how do you view the presentation and all? The NDC says that it is a budget of hope. MPP says it is an Azan budget. From where you sit, is this budget reassuring to the people of Ghana?
Well, thank you very much, and also special greetings to your viewers as well. You know, one thing that we have to know is that the budget is an estimated of what, or the intent of what the government want to do in terms of managing our resources. So all these projections are just an intent, and we're hoping that it will come into reality. But in all, we can sum it up and say that it is a manifesto budget, you know, because you'll be measured based on what you promise Ghanaians, and that is what the NDC thought, to make this budget to be one of the promises or the manifesto that they put out to Ghanaians. And that is how I would describe it. But it might be a way to handle these economic challenges and the issues that is confronting Ghanaians. So immediately, I believe that the budget tends to solve some immediate, to lessen the economic pressures in our country. And I think that we don't know what is ahead of us as we get along.
Okay.
Because all these things that we were just talking about is what they made out in their manifesto. So I would say that it's a tactical budget for running an economy that is debt-ridden and want to ensure certain issues. So it's something that they want to solve an immediate needs of Ghanaians in terms of lessening the economic burden. And that is what I see the budget. And I hope it come into reality, because the way people are trying to project the budget as if that all the monies and all the things that they have put out will be what will be on the actuals. But we hope that it will be on the actuals to lessen the budget. And I think there are a lot of debate. You know, the MPP will have to make some statement out of it. And I think that is also part of it, to also come up loopholes in the budget, so that they to put the government on track. And that is what I think that the budget intends to achieve.
Doc, let's look at public sentiment, perception, how great perception plays a role in so many things. At the moment, you have said it so many times that President John Dramani Mahama is a president who is lucky, having gone through all of the stages of leadership in the country. And he's riding on some very goodwill in the people. Does this budget go to compound the goodwill he has? Does this create a positive perception in the minds of Ghanaians at the moment?
Yeah, you know, this is the first budget of President Mahama. And if you are not careful and people see that your budget is not solving their needs. So I think he has been in a strategic move, because if you have a goodwill, you have to make use of that goodwill to ensure. So even if there are critical decisions that you have to take, you have to ensure that you move with the people. That is the goodwill that you have. And that is what this budget intends. Because your first budget will determine whether you will succeed as a government or not. Once people have a certain perception towards your budget, oh, this budget did not address. That's why I'm saying that is a manifesto budget, because they are trying to ensure that what they promised Ghanaians, they have started doing it now. And that is what makes the people tends to continue to they want to take the advantage of the goodwill and make use of it for this budget. If not, it could have been a very disastrous for President Mahama, because once perception is created, which will end up into an attitude, it becomes very difficult for you to work. And I think he's taking advantage of the goodwill that is why the budget is more tactical in terms of its relations with the manifesto to solve it. Because if it is betting, that is what they are now talking about, betting tax. This is betting tax. They are talking about farms. They are talking about whatever push. You know, these are the issues that were in their manifesto. And they want to let the Ghanaians know that they are on track. They have started implementing their promises. And that is what I believe that it might also continue to have the goodwill of the people.
Of the NDC government, at least on this first budget that has been read, may take the NPP into opposition for many years to come. We have heard this before in previous budgets, when the NPP also read their first budget in 2017. Doc, you do a lot about political stuff and you listen to the thoughts of Ghanaians and all. How would you analyze all of these conversations? And would you say that the NDC should be measured in the expectations, or this is right?
You know, you can't trust Ghanaians about bringing out a first budget and trying to. You can have all your manifestos in place, but if one or two issues crop up in your government, I think you are doomed, you know. And that is what Ghanaians are made of. Because it doesn't matter whatever you put in place, social kind of programs or whatever. If you make a mistake, or if you are being tainted with some kind of corruption, some kind of misapplication and other things, the business community think that you are not helping them, I'm sorry. That will not be defined based on your promises that you made in your first budget, or let's say you are able to handle, even if 24 hours or even whatever that you are supposed to go for elections, and there's a mistake or whatever, Ghanaians will punish you out of it. So I don't think that they should base on this kind of, because at the end of the day, even these promises that you're, it's a budget, it's not the actual. So if you're not careful, let's end up the year and probably we'll get to know whether some of the, but you cannot use this as a yardstick for 3 years ahead of you to determine whether you'll be in government. And Ghanaians are not like that. Ghanaians are not like that. The dynamics of every elections or every kind of is different. You know, you will be out of President Mahama will be out, and new people will be coming in to campaign to become presidential candidates and other things. So that is a different dynamic. I think the NDC should not think that this will end up more years or the MPP will be in opposition. At the same time, it behoves on the MPP to also work themselves out strategically to ensure that they put their house in order and ensure that the right things inside and within party differences or whatever are worked out within the shortest possible time, so that they can put themselves together for that. If they're able to put their house together and work hard, since President Mahama will not be coming in for the next election, probably the things might be different. So it depends on the MPP. At the same time, it depends on the NDC to avoid a lot of mistakes in their governance. If not, Ghanaians will punish them no matter what. They're able to fulfill their promise.
Well, Doc, we'll come back and have more conversation at a more opportune time. But thank you for joining us, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Dr. Samuel Afriyie is a political analyst at the Kumasi Technical University. Let me come back to you, Ni. This is Dr. Afriyie and what he said. Many said that this budget throws the NPP into a very long time in opposition. Doc has preferred some advice to the NDC. How would you take his advice?
Yeah, I think we should not think that because we presented a good budget, it's a done deal. We have a lot to do. We just spent about 3 months or even less in government. Certainly, whatever we do from now to election time will determine what will be happening come 2028. So we do appreciate his concern. Guta chairman also made a good contribution. We do appreciate them, as well as the AGI, all those who were even the opposition. Mr. Ahiagba's contribution, we do appreciate it. Look, everybody is needed in President John Dramani Mahama's government. So whatever advice we get, we'll look at the one that will help the people of this country to ensure that at least NPP stays in opposition not less than 30 years.
Really?
For us to be able
30 years?
Yeah. Yes, certainly. And that is going to happen. That is going to happen because we are here to serve the people of this country, and we'll listen to even the NPP themselves. So some of them will even realize that it is not necessary they even come back to power. They will appreciate the fact that NDC is there for them. So there wouldn't be any need of them bringing anybody to even take over from the NDC. So we actually really appreciate what Dr. Samuel Afriyie said, and we are going to work with it.
But we have heard this before. So much confidence in a budget so much so that you think that is it, is a done deal. But the delivery, the mode of delivery, the NDC, how prepared are you to make sure that you are delivering everything you've told us in this budget to the T, and Ghanaians don't even feel the hardship, and so that Ghanaians will also hear any thesis again where you are now explaining yourselves to us? Are you ready for that?
We are certainly ready. You know, President Mahama is one, let me say, a lucky person to some extent. He is a president who has been a president before, has gone to opposition, and has learned. Now that he has come, he knows the sweetness and the bitter aspect. So when you look at his appointment, you realize that he's appointing people who are very young, and they are being instructed to serve the people, regardless of their political affiliation. So you realize that as time goes, even those who did not even vote for NDC, some of them are beginning to realize that, wow, this is a good place to be. So even some of the young guys who were not supporting NDC today, they feel they wish they were part of the NDC, and gradually some of them are joining. So look, don't worry. It's early anyway, but I can assure you that we will not fail the people of this country. We will deliver, and you will clap for us.
Okay, you will deliver and we'll clap for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Nee. We'll be speaking the more with you. We are grateful for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nee Tansaki is an executive committee member for the NDC. We were earlier joined by Richard Ahiagba, Director of Communications for the NPP, Dr. Samuel Efri, a political analyst at the Kumasi Technical University, Chonam Akpelu, the Greater Accra Chairman for the Association of Ghanaian Industries, and Benjamin Yeboah, Director of Welfare for GUTA, the Ghana Union of Traders Association. On this conversation about the budget, so much to look at. We'll be delving deeper into the budget as time goes on, but Nee tells us that they will certainly deliver, and we will, as Ghanaians, clap for the NDC. He says that they will certainly deliver, and we will clap for them.